to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I am sitting back down with Lane McNab of Lane McNab Interiors. Lane originally appeared on the show all the way back in episode 205. And of course, then she struck me as a smart lady, and today is no different, okay? We learned in that first episode how Lane came into design as her second career after, get this, being an opera singer. How cool is that, right? And in that episode, she talked about how she leaned on her ability to tackle problems and figure things out as she built her design business. And now Lane is back to tell us about this exciting new endeavor that she's got. She's launched her own furniture line. So if you are interested in looking for ways to diversify your business one way or another, be ready to take notes because Lane is sharing with us every step of how she figured this process out from the ground up. It takes a lot of courage to step out and do something new with your business, but it also takes determination, savviness, trial and error, the ability to learn, iterate, and grow. Lane has all of these qualities and more, and each of them have contributed to her success. So before we get going and hear more about Lane's journey in launching this furniture line, I want to let you know about a free Zoom event that you are invited to. This event is through my other company, Exciting Windows, not Window Works, Exciting Windows, okay? And this will definitely be of interest and benefit to any of my window treatment pros and colleagues out there. But honestly, business is business. And so if you're an interior designer, website developer, graphic artist, you can benefit from it too. We're going to have it on September 9th at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, to sign up for this free virtual event, go to excitingwindows.com/EW Zoom. Okay, the link will be in the show notes. We are going to have guest speakers Nicole Heimer, Vita is going to be there, I'm going to be there, the Vin Man's going to be there, and we're going to chat about business for an hour. And we would love to have you join us. Okay, all right. Now, happy to reintroduce Lane to you. Hi, Lane. Thanks so much for coming back to A Well-Designed Business.
Hi, LuAnn. It's so nice to talk to you again.
It is. Lane, it's been like almost, I think it's over 4 years. You were all the way episode 205.
I know. I can't believe it. I can't believe I was one of your early people.
You were. And you made such an impression on me, too. I mean, so smart. Like totally one of the original #smart ladies.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And here you are, proving the point. You know, all these years later, first of all, your interior design firm has grown. You're up to 8+ employees and still growing. And now you've done this new thing. You've launched a furniture line. Like, that's pretty outstanding, lady.
Yeah, thank you. It was a long time vision. It was something I wanted to do for a long time. And, like a lot of your guests, once we get an idea in our heads, we kind of can't let it go. So,
right? That's us, the creatives, right? We all are like, with the brain like ping-ponging around all day long, right?
That's right. When it's waking you up in the middle of the night, you got to just do it.
That's it. That's the universe banging your head saying, Lane, do it, right?
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about the line. Tell us what it's called. Tell us your, thinking back, what was the pressing thing that kept waking you up? Why were you driven to do this, Lane?
Well, initially, which was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I really started thinking I wanted to diversify the firm a little bit, and I wasn't really sure how or what that was going to be. I know a lot of people do different things. Sometimes designers get into flipping houses or whatever. But I knew I wanted to have some sort of diversification, and we had, as a firm, started creating a lot of custom pieces for clients anyway as we were developing their projects. And I just kind of kept enjoying the process of creating furniture and designing furniture more and more. And then I think it was about 3 years ago, within about a week, I just sat down and I was actually sort of on vacation. I was actually caring for my mother who had gone through a surgery. So it wasn't really vacation, but I wasn't in work mode. I didn't have the kids around. It was just sort of, I was there at her home. And within about a week, I just sat down and drew like all of these designs.
Wow.
And it was one of those things like people describe where it's sort of like, am I doing this? Who's doing this?
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, and so I took all those sketches back. I developed them more, wrote out all the dimensions. A couple of them I had some people on my team put into some of our modeling software, and then we started going to our partners who make our custom pieces anyway for clients, and started talking through how we would begin to develop this more. And we have upholstered goods and we have case goods. So we went to those different workrooms and started the process of creating prototypes. And that's how the whole thing started. And that sounds, that took me like a minute to describe. That took like a year and a half. So
Well, I was already sitting here going, really? From Mama Sofa to prototypes. I think there's a
I
little missing in there.
snap my fingers and it's all.
So okay. So then let's pull that apart, because you know what? I'm sure we have friends out there that have those drawings in the notebooks, right? That it's their dream to do this. And I love that, you have that time and space with your mom, and that moments where you can, let your brain relax from the day to day. And I just had that, as a matter of fact. My mom took care of me after I had my hip replaced. And it's
Oh,
true, you're just with your mom and you're like, this is
yeah,
fun.
right,
Right.
right,
you know
exactly. Yeah.
and so the thing is, but from that, Lane, like, you come away from that with, charged up with these designs. And what is the next step? Like, seriously, what is the next step?
Right. Well, I'll start, let's say, with the case goods. We started with a very small side table because I knew that was manageable, that was low risk. I could probably pay for a handful of these as we developed the product and not feel like I could still pull the plug and not feel like I had done too much or put too much into it. Um, so we started with two small side tables and started developing those. We had our carpenter make, I don't even really remember now how many prototypes of each one, just to really finesse it. But I would say actually the first step was meeting with the carpenter, talking about what I had designed and getting his feedback. So his expertise in making it was important in insofar as what I was drawing and how realistic it was and how well it was going to work. But even after that, there was a prototype that was made and it tipped over too easily. So we went back to
Mm.
the drawing board and we started again. And then the second prototype was better, but we needed the top to be a little bit wider, even though it was a martini table. It needed a little, so it's a lot of refinement and sort of meeting the standard that I wanted to meet. And that was just within the shape. So then we get into finishing and wood species and all of that. And I will say with case goods, you start with a wood species that is not going to be your final. You have it made in a less expensive wood.
Oh, interesting. Because I was wondering about that as you were describing, and I was like, didn't you have to figure out what wood you wanted it made in first? But actually, it's no different than anything else. We make something out of lining if we've never made this drapery valance before, and we mock it up for a designer. And we're like, are you sure this is what you want? Right. So,
Right.
same
Exactly.
concept. You just take a wood that, that is probably not highly expensive or all the things so that you can, as you said, make sure that the prototype will work. Okay, so this process from first prototype tip, second prototype, the top is too small. Is it the third version, the fourth version before you then get into wood species and, timeline there?
Yes, I think that's what you should do. That is not what we did. But yes, I think if to go back and do it now, I wouldn't jump into the the final wood species by, I think, the second prototype,
Okay.
which is what we did.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, so I would say continue refining the prototype in the less expensive wood until you've got what you want, and then start working through the finishes. You'll probably work through finishes with samples of finishes before you actually start applying it to the piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so we jumped next into walnut and started finishing things. And then also the thing that worked really well for us was knowing what we wanted the brand of the furniture line to be, which put us at a higher end. And so in knowing that, I also knew that developing the finishes was not going to be a simple process, and we're still refining the finishes because we also have sustainability baked into our furniture line. So we have some offerings that are not just like go to any finisher and have that finisher slap on the polyurethane and you're done. So we have a lot of finishes that take a lot of time and energy and expertise, not only to apply, but for us to develop and learn about so that we're comfortable with their impact.
And so what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, is the chicken and the egg, the cart before the horse, because I don't know which is first, chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
So what you're starting with first is, you didn't mention it first, but you're telling us now that you knew from the start that this was an initiative, that it was going to be sustainable, and so then that started to guide the different choices and options as you went through the prototypes and started to get to an actual finished piece of furniture. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. So after having the drawings, I feel like there are two parts to developing a truly authentic furniture line brand, or just a furniture line. And the parts of it are going to fall into production being one side, and the other side being the aesthetic and the brand, basically. So I think the part that we can all envision pretty clearly is what we want our furniture line to be and look like, and how we want it to represent us, and how we want to use it in our projects. I think the production part is a lot trickier, but they work very much in tandem. So I knew I wanted to have the furniture line be aspirational, be environmentally sound, and I read that book, Cradle to Cradle. I feel like we all have to think a lot about our impact on the environment. I live in the Bay Area, and California is on fire for 5 months out of the year now.
Yeah,
So,
right.
it's just, we all have to think about these things. There are many aspects to the environmental story that, especially in our industry, not only like water usage, but chemical toxicity and energy usage, labor practices. I could go on and on. I knew I wanted that to be part of the DNA of what we do, whether or not that is our marketing. It's just going to be how we do it. So refining all of that and knowing that at the beginning helped develop and lead the way the second part of the furniture line was going to proceed, which was production. So I can select finishes, I can select manufacturing practices based on the fact that I wanted the furniture line to be of a very high quality, to be aspirational, to meet certain standards of what we as a firm offer clients as well. I don't do, I mean, I say aspirational, but that is like the first thing I tell clients when they're working with me is like, I'm going to present to you aspirationally. It's up to you. You make the call. I'm going to respect your budget, of course, but if I see something that I know is the right choice, that's what I'm going to show you. So that is what we do with the furniture line too. And I'm not going to dumb it down or make it less good to meet a certain price point.
So you're very, so I love this though. So let's pick it apart, because the thing is, if you don't come to a project like this with having done this hard sit down with yourself, it's hard enough, it sounds like, to find the people to work with, to do the prototypes and to all of that stuff. But if you're blowing like the wind, in other words, one company says, hey, I can make that for $42.99. Another company says, I can make that for $4,099. It's like it's the same thing we say with our businesses, right? Like, know your mission, know your core values, because then when a client expects you to do something, you're just like, does that align with my core values? No, okay, you're not my client. Or some other opportunity comes along, is that in line with what I envision for myself, my company, my culture, my brand? And what you're saying is when you develop a furniture line, you have that same guidepost, because there's lots of choices to be made as you go through this process. And if you don't have something that you're constantly, checking your choices by, it could be even more overwhelming than it probably is.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Right, absolutely. And I'm saying we because I have an employee in the firm who is helping manage the product line, and she and I worked very closely together in developing it. So we determined very early on that there were 3 principles, and whenever we hit a roadblock, we go back to those 3 principles and say, which choice do we make? Let's go back to these 3 principles. And the first is very high quality. The second is sustainability, and the third is customization. And so when we're making a choice around like, well, this finish is more expensive than that finish, but this finish is very toxic, it's easy to know what to choose.
Right. See, that's the thing. You have your markers. So somebody might say to you, hey, Lane, I can, kick these out at this price point if we use this finish. And if you determine with your research or just, that finish is toxic, it then doesn't matter that the other finish is more expensive to you, is what you're saying. It's like, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
This is against our alignment of what we've decided the mission for this furniture is, this company.
Right. Right. And your mission might be that we want to make our pieces accessible to everyone, like kind of like maybe an Amazon model or whatever, like we want it to service everyone. Then you're going to have to make choices that are going to compromise other aspects in production that will keep your price point very low. And
the thing is, that is the truth. We need furniture to enter the market at all price points, right? It's, there's something for everybody. But we talk about in regard to if, one of our colleagues is sitting out there with the vision of a line in their head or in a notebook, but hasn't done this exploration of what is important to you beyond the way it looks, right? It's the quality, it's all of these other things, because you're going to constantly, it sounds like you are consistently hit with this or that choices.
Yeah, for
right?
Sure.
As you go through this process, right?
That's right. I mean, I think you have to determine along the way where you're going to make a compromise, because you can't make everyone happy all the time. So you have to determine what is the foundation of what you're trying to do. And then that can inform those decisions as you need to make them. And there are hundreds of decisions around production that have to be made in developing something like a furniture line. I mean, I know that I did just happen to pick probably the hardest, you know, doing case goods and upholstery. And now we're even now starting to create some custom lighting for people that we may down the road introduce into. But I mean, I have learned so much. And I thought I knew so much as far
Mm.
as how things are produced just working as an interior designer, but I have learned so much more. And that just makes me a better designer too. So that's been actually an added benefit. But you know, I think that's why a lot of people are developing fabric lines because I'm sure that's a lot more simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's simple, but I think that that's also quite challenging in its own way. That was not appealing to me because I feel like there is so much fabric out there, and it wasn't. I think designers also tend to get inspiration from looking for something and not finding it.
Right.
And so when you kind of can't find the thing you're trying to find, then you want to fill that hole, you want to
Mm-hmm.
fill that niche. So that was what was motivating the pieces that I chose to create. So I also think even though I said the whole thing started because I wanted to diversify the firm, if it were really purely only that, I would never have gone down this path
I hear
because
you, right? Because it's you could
this
have
is
done
a
it
very
easier.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I also, it wouldn't have meant as much to me. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have found it as rewarding, and I wouldn't be so driven and focused to keep it going.
Mm, mm.
So,
Well, and that is the thing. That is the essence. It's to find what gets you out of bed in the morning. And really, sometimes it can be because this is about diversifying my revenue stream and this is the straightest line towards that. Like it's as simple as that.
right.
And that works and that is and if that gets you out of the bed and keeps you passionate because even if that was the one and only driving goal of it, it still has all of its hurdles and challenges. You have more because you have these other core values that you've attached to it, but there's nothing easy about bringing any product to the marketplace. And so you need to be attached to your passion, I think, is the point of it. And, you know, it's funny because I've interviewed Robin Barron on the podcast and also Kathleen
Hmm.
Anderson, and they
Hmm.
both also shared how designing, you know, the like Kathleen and you know the furniture lines that each of them have designed. It also has been born of there's a gap in the marketplace. I'm consistently
Yeah.
designing custom for my clients, and these are the kind of pieces that I'd like to see. And so you know what? If I like them, other people will like them. Maybe there's a marketplace for it, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And I do think that's turning out to be true because of the inquiries we're getting and the people who are purchasing the pieces. I can tell that it is sort of filling a, you know, the reaction has been so good that I'm sort of like, oh, it wasn't just me. I think other people are sort of excited to see this niche be filled as well.
Well, and what you're referring to is because your furniture is trade only. So you're talking about your
Yeah.
colleagues that are discovering the line and now, you know, purchasing it and putting it into their projects. They're liking it and they're saying, "Hey, I'll have a little more of that, please." Right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
right.
now going back into the nitty gritty about this for a little bit. So I'm curious. So you described how this is born out of many years of being a designer and already designing your own custom pieces for the projects that you've had. And so you probably had, you know, when you mentioned the carpenter you went to, I imagine he's built other pieces for you. Is there a point where you're working with this carpenter and you come up with the prototype and you finally get to the end of it, but his capability is not one that can now, you know, do the custom furniture that he designs for designers like yourself, and then all of a sudden, well, you know, Lane has got, you know, 10 orders for this side table. Like, did you
Yeah.
have to go to a different production once you work with this guy and his company? How did that work?
Yeah, so we're actually getting to that point right now. Um, so we work with three different work rooms for the pieces. One being our carpenter who's making case goods, one being our upholstery workroom, and one is a workroom in Southern California that does a combination. So we have one piece that's called the Manta bed, and it has a lot of woodwork on it as well as upholstery, and they were the workroom that could do both.
Mm.
So so yeah, we're starting to have enough orders come in that we are going to hit against our sort of production ceiling pretty soon
Mm.
with our small workrooms. Not necessarily with the upholstery and the bed, but with our carpenter.
Mm.
So what we've done is, and we've actually done this with all of the pieces, the upholstery and the bed, but what we're doing is having him go ahead and pre-make a bunch of the pieces that are looking like they're going to be ordered more.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling off the floor at the showroom, and we don't want to have to, place an order and wait 6 weeks to replace what's being sold. So we're going to ramp up some back stock and have some inventory so that we will basically, it's hard to believe that I'm saying this, but we're going to have a quick ship program.
For highly customized, sustainable, high-end furniture.
Exactly.
It's like an oxymoron, right?
Right, totally. But for some of the smaller pieces, it makes perfect sense, and I can do better pricing anyway if I place a larger order. And not too large, but within reason. If I buy 4 tables instead of one,
Mm-hmm.
I can get better pricing anyway because our workroom can buy, the wood that he needs without as much waste, and utilize it all with those small tables all being
Mm-hmm.
made at once.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have them on hand.
That's got to be a tough crossroads especially if it's a carpenter that you've worked with for, the 11, 12 years of your business on all the individual designs that you've done for your clients. And now he's been there with you the last 3 years of building this, baby, this prototype of these furniture. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, you're like,
I know.
I'm growing out of you. Like that's got to like be a little bittersweet, right?
Yeah, although I don't think we'll ever leave him. I think we'll keep him occupied with what he can handle
Mm.
because he's so great and he's lovely and he works really well with us, and he can produce, up to a certain point, and
Mm-hmm.
then we will expand beyond that to, and we're looking into that right now.
Well, and
So,
that would be the next challenge because now somebody's got to do it as well as he did it, right?
right, exactly.
But with
Well,
a larger capacity for scale, but not to sacrifice the quality and the workmanship.
yeah, and all the other principles that we've sort of outlined as being a part of our, you know, reason for being.
Mm-hmm.
So, that we've just hired a consultant who has an expertise in production and manufacturing, and we've met with her probably 3 times now to just sort of download all of the information that we have developed about the furniture line up to this point. And she's going to go out and find us additional partners who meet all of our criteria.
That is the other component.
Yeah.
It's not just about the craftsmanship and the relationship of being able to work closely with somebody, but you need all that back end, all those sustainability standards are that's not a negotiable for you.
Yeah, and we've, I say we developed the line 3 years ago. We still are developing it. I mean, we're still refining and fine tuning it, but we have this wealth of information that has grown out of 3 years of really digging in to understanding not only how things are made, but and we all have a pretty good sense of that. I think if you're, working in the industry, you kind of have a decent sense of what makes a good sofa versus what makes a less good sofa.
Right.
I don't want to say piece of junk, but so we all have a good sense of that, but there are so many more details involved, down to we are telling people how to finish our case goods. We're not going to a finisher and saying, can you make the finish look like this? We're saying, this is what we use. This is how it's done. This is what it has to look like when it's finished, but this is what the product that we have determined meets our environmental standards and the aesthetic we want, and this is how it's applied. And I mean, we're really kind of architects of the process.
And that'll be the challenge for this consultant, to find that resource that has the ability to do a larger scale, the next level production that you require, but is flexible and innovative enough to understand that you're not fitting into their box. They're opening up their box and putting your process in it.
Yeah, but I think that's also a positive force for change within the industry anyway. If we can have, I mean, obviously we're tiny. We're not some big influential company that's going to change industry practices, but if we can partner with a workroom and show them a really great way of doing things that meets a different standard, that doesn't hurt anyone.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Who knows? We don't know until we know. And then when we know, it's sort of like everything else, hard to unknow.
Yeah, right, exactly. And some of our workrooms already knew. One of them, our upholstery workroom, we partnered with because they already had all these standards in place. And that was so easy and great. And there may be other workrooms out there that do this for case goods and other things, but the other ones we had to teach.
Right.
And that's fine.
Well, and I know from reading about you and your website, this new phase of Lane McNab's life, and reading about it, that you are connected with the Sustainable Furnishings Council, because we had Susan Ingalls on a couple of months ago. And I remember, the thing that struck out to me was the ability for all different brands and manufacturers and vendors and trades to join the Sustainable Furnishings Council and to see all of the ways a company could move further and further towards being a eco-friendly, sustainable company. And what impressed me about it was when she said, maybe we have 40 ways that you could do it. Do 2 this year, do 2, and then next year do 2 more. And she said you can follow the companies as they place more and more check marks, because it's not easy to turn a production facility around to do all of and take care of all of the details the way that you're describing that go into creating a truly sustainable item, right?
Right. So I think about our bed is sort of our premier piece of the line, and it's the one that's kind of garnered the most attention. And it has, let me think, 4 components, 4 different materials that go into making it. It has wood, it has leather, and that's something that I've talked about on other podcasts about, the sustainability around leather. And then it has linen as part of the headboard, and it has brass on it. So we had to sort of research each component, as well as, of course, the wood is finished. So that's maybe a 4th component. So, I mean, a 5th. So we had to research each component, source those individually, pull them together, and then have them all put together in a way that was also sustainable. So, and not only sustainable, which is, we're talking a lot about that, but also meets a very high quality standard. So that was definitely challenging. And so we have the brass caps and ferrules that are on the bed. It's very typical for people to just sort of have a brass cap or ferrule made of a different metal and then have it powder coated or finished or whatever to look like brass. And we actually have solid brass spun caps and feet that are unlacquered. I mean, the brass caps, which are like 1.5 inches tall, are so heavy because, they're solid brass. It's just things like that. We dug into every detail, and we had to push and push and push to get the quality that we wanted. And we got it, but it was a very long process, and you have to constantly monitor.
Right, because somebody will, like I said, I could imagine the conversations, and that's why it's so important to really be very clear on what is the most important thing to you, what your vision is, because I'm sure there are people who say, Lane, seriously, we're just going to make it out of this material. We'll finish it. Like you said, powder coat it. It'll look like brass. It's it's 1/3 the price, and the shipping on it is 1/10 of the price because it doesn't weigh as much as it weighs when we blah, 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 right? But, that's right. When you just stand there and say, but that's not the whole picture. It isn't just about the picture of it. It's about what it really is, right?
Yeah, right. And we have very I really wanted the line to have that aspirational feel, and we have representation in design center showrooms. And so I'm not going to put something into a showroom that doesn't meet a standard that they feel excited about showing their potential clients. I'm also selling to the trade. So designers are savvy, they know what's
Mm.
good and what's not.
Right. You're not your
And
garden variety consumer out there is not your
right,
target client. So tell me a
right.
little bit about the showrooms and the showroom representation, because of course, you really could be a designer that has your notebook full of your beautiful designs, and you could do a lot of the steps that you did, find your local carpenter that you've been working with for years in your process and all the things, and then take the route of selling it yourself, your own e-com site. Otherwise, the other route is to go for this showroom representation. Did you consider both? Did you research both? Or for whatever reason, did you know that this was also the path that you intended to do?
I didn't know when I was developing the line that that's initially that I wanted to go the showroom route. But as we decided that the quality and the sort of the beauty and the elegance and the quality was going to be what we were going to make a very high standard for, I knew that there were showrooms that I wanted to be a part of. Um, I knew it wasn't like I'm just going to sell stuff through the website or, like a lot of e-commerce sites that you see, because I really did want it to be, I wanted it to be that level. So we produced prototypes for pretty much everything. And in January of 2020, there was, I guess it's like Design Week at the San Francisco Design Center, and I had some marketing materials put together, a little packet of cards with each piece and sort of a summary of it. And then I don't think I actually brought one of the small tables, although I may have. I can't remember now. And so while we were going around, actually as designers taking part in Design Week, I also had scheduled a few appointments with showrooms to say, hey, let me show you what I've just developed. And these were showrooms that I had relationships with. And my favorite one is Sloan Miyasato. I've loved their offerings for the whole time I've been a designer, and we've worked with them on several projects. And so I had scheduled an appointment with them and went in, and they were thrilled when they saw it. And
Wow.
they basically within a week came back and said, yeah, we'd love to have you be a part of it. So that was how we got our representation initially. And we also reached out to some other people outside of our immediate area that we work with, and we have representation through Eric Waldorf in the Pacific Northwest as well. Now, that was January of 2020, and then we all know what happened not long after that. So we were supposed to get into the showroom, but then the showrooms all closed. And so we actually ended up in September or October of 2020 getting pieces into the showroom, but it still wasn't really open. So we were going to have like a big launch party and all of that, but it's just been kind of, we just haven't been able to get there yet. So things are opened again. I know everything's in flux now with the Delta variant growing, and who knows what's going to happen, but I do anticipate probably end of summer, maybe this September, doing more of an official launch, which would be great. But even so, that it's been wonderful because the showrooms, as we all know, go out on the road, and that was even more true during the shutdown. So their reps were going out and having appointments with designers all around and showing the pieces. So that was great.
Well, I love that. We've learned a lot from the interviews with the various designers that have partnered with Kravet over the years. One of the two most common refrains, no matter who I've spoken with that has produced anything with Kravet, whether it be textiles or fabric or wall coverings or furniture or whatever it is, the two things that always stick out in the interview is that how amazing it is to work with the Kravitz team, the studio
Yeah.
team, on designing and bringing a product to market. But the second thing is that there was always some sort of relationship there already. It wasn't a
Yeah.
stranger calling on Kravitz saying, hey, want to sell my stuff or want to develop my stuff. And so you go to this showroom, Sloan Masato. Is that how you say it? Sloan Masato?
Miyasato. Yeah.
Miyasato. And, they know you. They know the type of designer that you are. They know the type of projects that you do. They know that the quality that, they do and that you're accustomed to. But my question is, did you go into this with any sort of, I kind of have an idea of A, what I'm asking of them, B, what I think this arrangement might look like, and C, how the ownership of the line or the finances of the, like, am I going to license it? Am I going to sell it to them? Did you have any of that at all worked out, or did you just say, I know these people, let me just start to see if I've got something that's worth and somebody being interested in it?
That's a good question. I did not think that licensing would be a part of it. I wasn't totally clear on how the relationship worked with showrooms from the other side. I know how it works when I'm going and placing orders, but I did not understand totally how it worked from being someone who's providing to the showrooms. So that was a learning process. It's not too different than what you would expect, but you basically we have pieces made to order. So we don't, except for what I was just saying, we're going to develop a quick ship, basically like a quick ship line. Currently, designers come to the showroom, they see the pieces that we have there, or they look through our additional offerings, they place an order, and then that piece goes into production. Now, but we do have already the pieces on the floor that are almost like they're on consignment, you could say. Like, I just did air quotes as I said that, but like it's sort of like you have the piece made and it goes into the showroom, and if someone buys it off the floor, that's how you make the money on that piece. But the showroom isn't paying me to have that piece on the floor.
So what you're saying is, in this particular arrangement, in this case, the showroom is looking at the pieces saying, we like the quality, we like the styling, this fits our demographic, our audience, our clients, our designer clients, we expect will react and this will attract them and we will sell it. Okay, Lane, we're going to give you some real estate over here. Put a bed in, put a this in, put a that in. And when we have sales, we'll let you know to go put something into production.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and then do you set your minimum price for what you can sell the piece for and still make your margin, and you say to them, this is like, say the bed is $2,000. Are they at their will to then say, that's great, Lane, we love that price, but we're going to sell it for $4,800? Or is there an agreement between the two of you on what the price points are that they can sell them for?
We have an agreement that what their additional percentage is over what we sell it.
Okay. So you work all that out. That's what I don't know. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, okay. So interesting. Very interesting. And so then, they say yes, but then the conversation continues. And that's when all of this sort of conversation comes out. It's like, well, what are the price points and what do we think we can sell them for? Because I could see an obstacle would be, if your production price points, they just would look, if they possibly had to look at you and said, well, we can't possibly price this at a point where we can make enough money to make it worth our time to have it take our real estate. So it all has to work, has to be win-win is the point.
Yeah, and they have a percentage that is standard for them across the board for everyone that is in their showroom. So it kind of is up to us on the other side to make sure that we're comfortable with what we're selling it to them for.
Understood. So in other words, you're saying that maybe their percentage is 30%. I have no idea. We don't care. Right. But You're saying, okay, by the time they add 30% to this bed or to this nightstand or to this dining table, whoa, okay, I'm not sure the market will bear that. Can I sell it at a lower price, or that's where you have to think about it yourself as an entrepreneur?
That's correct. And but I will say that that was part of being in a showroom, which is that no one's going to the showroom for
A
a
bargain.
bargain. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not what, yeah, we're not going to say the names. It's not those
Yeah.
places, right? It's
Right.
if you're walking through the door and you have to ask how much, you're in the wrong spot, right?
Right. And that aligned perfectly with what I wanted the furniture line to be, which was of a certain standard that you're gonna get what you pay for.
But I still love the lesson in there on you have to evaluate that once that you know your business. You've been in the field 11, 12 years. You have sold custom pieces of furniture. That's what's really great. You walk in the shoes of the same people who will buy it, and you had to know for yourself and had that conversation of, is this a price point that somebody would pay for these things, regardless of the fact that it's in a high-end showroom? It still has to make sense. You can't be
Yeah.
the unicorn in the showroom. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I
And
love it.
we are not the unicorn in the showroom as far as prices go. I mean, I feel like we're probably going to raise prices before too long because, starting out, I was being very careful about, oh, I want to make sure it's accessible to a certain, whatever. But I think we're beyond that now. I think we're seeing the interest come in and we're seeing the pieces that are comparable to our pieces and what they're selling for. And I think it just puts us in a different bracket that maybe I just needed to be more comfortable with and not. I definitely at the beginning was shortchanging myself
Mm.
to make sure that we got into the areas I wanted to be in. But now I get it. I feel like I get it so much better now.
Well, you know what I love about that is it's so typical of any entrepreneur's journey, but of course to the designer's journey. I can imagine if you went back and analyzed the projects and the way you priced them 12 years ago, you'd probably say the same thing about yourself. In the
Oh
beginning, I
yeah.
wasn't sure if I was going to get another client, if the phone was ever going to ring again. So I was
Right.
pricing projects at a lower rate that I, eventually understood that my value was worth more. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, I love that. But, and the other thing too is, I think there is a point, just like for when we set our hourly rates and we set our flat fees and all the things, you do have to really not so much look at yourself through your own eyes, but the objective eyes of what is the value you bring to the table. Because if you were to say, well, that's my friend over there and that's, his or her superpower and this is the work that they do, you'd probably price them higher than you
Hmm.
would yourself, right? And so when you go into a showroom the way you're describing and you're looking around, it's sort of like looking around at your peers and you're saying, my bed is every bit as beautiful, different style, different line, but the quality is there. And, all of the things that you've baked in as far as the sustainability. And to just say, if that's selling at that price point, I can too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Hmm.
because people shop in price points. Think about it,
Yeah.
right? People shop in price points. They go into certain designers go into certain showrooms. Some go into these 5 showrooms and some go into the 5 showrooms that are quote unquote at a higher price point. It's like clothing. Some people go to Macy's, some people go to Nordstrom, some people go to Neiman's,
Yeah.
And
Right.
you know what? The same people go to all 3 of those clothing, those stores for different reasons. Right?
Yeah.
You might go to
Right.
your Macy's for your kids, but you're going to Neiman's for you, and but you're going to go to Nordstrom's if you're going to get, shoes or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's the same when you're in the space. Look around at how you really do line up and price yourself accordingly, because being the
Yeah.
lowest price in the room is not the way to be.
Yeah. And I know that what we're offering is equal to, if not, and then we have the sustainability built in. So if
Right.
not higher than what the quality, not, I mean, I think it speaks well for us that we are peers with these other lines that are in the
Mm-hmm.
showroom. And so I have no qualms about saying, oh yeah, we definitely should charge more because
Mm-hmm.
I see. what these other pieces are, and I know we're of equal value.
Mm-hmm. And to your point about the added value of the sustainability, it's particularly valuable to the designer who has a client that is their goal. And so
Yeah.
now it's just like when the guy says, this finishing materials or this finishing materials, and you're like, well, those have toxins in it. I don't care. Those are out because they have toxins in it. And it's the same thing. That designer is going to walk their client in, and maybe they love two beds. Maybe they're both beautiful. But if yours has all of those things and that speaks to that client, then it's a no-brainer decision. It's irrelevant of the price at that point.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very good. So all of this talk about price and all of the things, like, the burning question is, you, you're 3 years approximately into it. What kind of investment? Are we profitable yet? Have we turned over into the profitability margin, or is it still, digging it in and investing and still growing? Where are we at with that, Lane?
Yeah, we are not profitable yet.
Okay,
We
good news. I mean, that's a good
yeah.
thing to know. It's, there's no, roses and unicorns here, right?
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I'm also taking a long view with the whole thing. So I'm not trying to do something quick so I can start making a profit within, 4 to 6 months or even a year at this point. We've been in the showroom since last September. Um, and we've been selling pieces, but due to the production issues that have been happening all around the globe because of COVID,
Mm.
we have been very competitive because we're made locally. So that's actually been very
Mm.
helpful. But at the same time, I want to be able to offer a lot of things. I just want to cut down on lead times as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, the bed is another perfect example. We have all of these components that go into making the bed, and we can have the bed made within, I think it used to be 4 to 6 weeks. I think we're now 6 to 8 weeks once an order is placed, which, as we all know, in this time is like crazy fast.
It
I
is.
mean, we're
I
getting
can't
like
even get
20.
drapes in 6 weeks. I can't believe you can
I
make a bed
know.
in 6 weeks.
I know. But the reason for that is that we bought all of the materials up front that would be needed to make
Mm.
this bed. So everything's kind of sitting there and it just needs to be put together. So we bought bolts and bolts of the linen. We bought hides of the leather. We have, I think, 100 brass caps and ferrules, ready to go. So then it just comes down to like the bed needs to be made and put together. So we're not waiting on all of these components to arrive so that then they can start production. Now, if someone does a COM or a COL, we have to wait for those items to arrive,
Mm.
but it's fine. I mean, it's really cut down. So it was a big upfront investment, but it's going to pay off in the long run. It's already started paying off.
So this is the thing. It's not only a big upfront investment, and whether you're willing to share it or not, if not, if you could put it in, brackets for us, more than, in 5 figures, more than 6 figures, you know what I mean, would be helpful just for designers who are considering it. How do you
Yeah,
feel?
it's in the five figures.
Okay.
But I would say for materials, I know we paid probably around 35,000 for materials. Now, I haven't calculated, manpower, woman power at this
Right.
point, like what time and energy has gone into all of the development around it. I also don't have an exact number around like marketing materials. That's a separate thing. We have cards produced. Everyone talks about samples being a major problem. The industry talks about sampling kind of being what's tanking a lot of fabric and, fabric lines right now and
Mm.
stuff like that. But we have not had a problem with sampling yet. We did pay for some upfront samples to be made, but I think we probably got a really good deal because, we're using scraps of the pieces that we're making. It was all just because it's local. We're kind of,
That's the cool thing, right? You're all
yeah,
working together and figuring out. And by the way, it also speaks to, your mission of being sustainable. Instead of like, hey, order another 10 yards to cut it up into samples, you're taking the scraps of the things and cutting them into samples. I mean, that's
Right.
like you're
Yeah.
living your mantra there, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So the thing is now, so we're talking about 35K solid on materials, and then probably who knows if it's another. I mean, your per hour labor for you as the principal designer of a high-end luxury firm, we could be another 20 to 30 or 40K that you
Oh, yeah.
easy, right? And that doesn't even include what you would have earned if you spent those hours in the design firm. So it's not only the hours you spent, but the revenue that you didn't generate there as you were doing this. So it's a big investment, and it takes a lot of courage to front that investment. Talk a little bit, give us just a few minutes on, do you have people in your life? Do you have a husband, a partner, a mother, somebody's like, Lane, what are you doing? Or were people like, you got this, lady, go do it? Like, what is that about?
Oh, that's a good question. No one has said, are you out of your mind?
Great. Good for you. I'm so glad you have good people around you.
Yeah. If anything, everyone's really excited about it. And I think, I also think once I kind of know what I'm going to do and that my risk tolerance is okay with it, I'm just going to do it. So it's going to happen. And I'm not going to sort of hit a wall and be like, oh, it's too hard. It's too expensive. Like, we'll figure it out. You just kind of get to the next decision, the next fork in the road, and then you decide how to move forward. I feel like we have not I'm not like going into debt for it by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, everything is absolutely well funded internally. I mean, there's no like startup money or anything like that. Like the firm is funding it. And we are seeing these pieces sell to our clients, to designers, to whomever walks into the showroom. So I think if we had done all of this and it was crickets, I would be nervous. But I see that it's almost just a matter of us kind of continuing to meet the level of the interest that we're seeing that's holding us back. And we're totally gearing up for that. Like we're not, if anything, we just can't do it fast enough to kind of keep expanding and keep growing to become profitable. And we're working on that right now.
Okay. And did you have one final question around this threshold for risk and the evaluation of it and the actual doing of it? Did you have a sort of line in the sand or even like a swiggly line in the sand where you said, after X amount of weeks or months or this or X amount of dollars, like was there some barometer that you said, if this, then I will stop, or if this, then I will take it as a sign that it's on the right track and keep going? I think we established the one. There was interest in blah, blah, blah. But before you started writing checks and doing all this and taking your attention away from your design firm, did you have a feeling on what would be the possibility of what would be the markers where you'd say, stop, this isn't working?
I think if we weren't able to solve the problems that arise as we take like that next step and then that next step, if we weren't able to have a solution in I know it sounds like 3 years. It's like, oh, 3 years is so much. I think it hasn't been fully 3 years of really developing the production aspect.
Right.
But I think if we had hit some sort of a roadblock where I couldn't see the answer, I would start to want to reevaluate.
Right.
But that hasn't happened. And the answer has not been, another, we have to put $500,000 into that. That has never been the answer. The answer is like a tweak.
Right.
The answer is a shift. And so that has made it feel so doable.
Well, I have to say, I love it. I can think back to the different entrepreneurial things that Vin and I have done throughout the years. And, I'm relating to it, right?
Yeah.
I'm relating to it. It's, Vinny went 18 months when we started Window Works without a paycheck. So, somebody would say, oh, your business wasn't profitable. But he was like, I have two other businesses and a full time job. My bills are paid. Lou's getting her paycheck. We're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like there's certain things. But what happens is while that 18 months is going on and you're not getting a paycheck, you're seeing that people are responding to the product that you've put out into the market. And the same with you. You're seeing the result of the idea and the reaction to the pieces. And to your exact point, when something feels like, oh, that's a little bit of a roadblock, like you get around it. It's like, oh, no, just look at it this way. It's not really a stop sign. It's kind of a yield, or it might be a stop sign, but you just, make a turn and put the gas on and go again. And I
Yeah.
think that's, it takes a lot of courage, Lane. It takes a lot of courage to do what you've done. Of course, many designers have done it before you and others will do it past you, but it's still individually takes a lot of courage to do something like this and to put your money and your energy and your attention to something that you believe in when you're already running something that's successful and working. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like,
Well, it's interesting as you were describing that, I was realizing that part of the reason that it feels less maybe scary or less of a risk is because even if it is financially we're putting money into it, it's not. I do have the design business, which is our main focus and our
mm-hmm,
main goal, and everything that we're putting into the furniture line is not only just as its own little separate thing that's kind of like, it's not as if that were the only thing. And whatever happens with that, it's sort of feeding the overall
mm-hmm,
brand.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is it's the furniture line actually, I'm getting to go out and do wonderful podcasts like this, which not only are helping the furniture line, but also feed the overall brand of my firm.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I know. I relate to it exactly. I relate to your journey exactly. It's so, I do. I really do. I think it's awesome. So tell designers, how do they see the furniture line if they're interested in specifying it for their projects? And I don't know, Lane, if you're open or not, if somebody out there is just on the precipice and really thinking about this themselves, if you're interested in letting designers reach out to you for a little brainstorming, because I'm sure they're going to call you whether I ask you if it's okay or not.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I realize that the best way to learn something is to teach it. So I know that I learn so much more about what I'm doing when I have to explain it to someone else.
Smart.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be absolutely fine. So people can find the furniture line through our website, which is lanemcnab.com. There is a page for the Guild. It's Guild by LMI. You can also find me on Instagram, and that's Lane McNab Interiors. And then there's Guild by LMI has its own Instagram as well. And for specifying and ordering, you can reach out to us. You could also reach out to Sloan Miyasato in the San Francisco Design Center, or in the Pacific Northwest, you can reach out to Eric Waldorf, who has a website, which I think is Eric with a K, Waldorf.com.
All right. I love it. I love it. I mean, congratulations. Talk about a Where Are They Now podcast.
I know, it's been way too long.
I know. But I'm grateful that you reached out, and I'm grateful that you came back and really to share, the back end of this. It's a lot of people have an idea on a napkin, like I said, a notebook, but there's, when you see something out there in the marketplace, to really have this opportunity to kind of take a peek about all the things that you were faced along the way to get it to there is kind of a big treat. So thank you, Lane. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, LuAnn.
You know, you just can't overstate how much courage and determination that Lane has shown with this latest endeavor. Wouldn't you agree, right? When I talk about running a well-designed business, this is what it means: to commit to ideas, to innovate, to push yourself, and to figure out where you want to expand, where you want to grow, scale, and change. I am duly impressed. Okay. The first big takeaway I want to highlight is the importance of having your core values laid out. It's so easy to dismiss this and say, oh, I know what I stand for. But actually taking the time to work them out, to write them down, and to have them where you can reference them at any given time is really, truly valuable in running a business. And for Lane, laying out her core values of producing high quality, sustainable, and customizable furniture made every potential difficult decision become a no-brainer, right? No matter where your business is going, no matter what you're doing with it, you need to be clear on your core values because they guide you, they focus you, and they keep you from making mistakes that could ultimately threaten your business. I also appreciate Lane's realism about compromise, right? As she said, there are some areas where you're going to be faced with compromise. Not everything will fall out exactly the way you want every single time. But when you can prioritize what's important to you by leaning back on those core values, then you can figure out how and where the compromise should be made without affecting the integrity of you or your business, right? And I don't want to gloss over the intricacies that sustainable furnishings require. Lane has taken on something difficult and is standing firm in her commitment to sustainability. With that commitment came a lot of learning about the impact of every aspect of furniture on the environment, from materials to finishes to every little nuance along the way. Lane is a member of the Sustainable Furnishings Council. We heard recently from Susan Ingalls, the executive director of the council, and I remember being blown away by all of the details, all of the factors that go into sustainable furniture design. So if you missed that episode and you're interested in this topic, please go back to that as well. Episode will be in the show notes. All right, learning all of this is not for the faint of heart, but if it aligns with your values, with your passion and what you believe and what you feel is important to you, then it's probably worth learning, right? Now, before I wrap up, I want to take a quick moment to thank our show sponsor, My Doma Studio. My Doma Studio is the designer toolkit. Not only does it offer a workflow software to keep your projects organized from beginning to end, but it also offers a valuable, thriving designer community. My Doma is created by designers for designers, so you know that you can truly offer everything you need to stay organized and to free up your time. Okay. So when you are working with your clients within My Doma Studio, you're offering them this seamless process. All right. So you can get 20% off your first 3 months by going to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. All right. Now, if you want to get in touch with Lane to pick her brain, you can find her on Instagram at Lane McNab Interiors or her website at lanemcnab.com, and you can shop her line at Guild LMI. All right. And I want you to walk away knowing that regardless of whether a furniture line is in your future or not, the process of learning and adapting that she has gone through is something that any one of us can incorporate into our business, right? It's not an easy road to walk. You are going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. Lane is going to make mistakes. You're going to struggle to be profitable at first. We all do. But you're going to learn a lot, and that is always worth it, isn't it? And if you put your mind to it, you can do it, right? You can add to your business. You can grow different facets of it. You can diversify. You can ensure your future. That's really why you go into business on your own, isn't it? So that you are the master of your domain, right? Like that you are the leader of your ship. You are the CEO. You are the one that can decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.